Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville for June 28th, 2011. I'm Joe Lynch.
I'm Denise Provost.
There you go. My guest tonight makes her fourth appearance here on Greater Somerville. She is a wife, a mom, an attorney, and former Somerville Alderman at Large. She currently is serving in her fifth?
It's my sixth year.
Sixth? There you go. Her term as state representative from the 27th Middlesex District in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Representing much of Somerville, she is a passionate advocate for our schools, our seniors, affordable housing, public transportation, and the environment. Here tonight to discuss some of the many happenings on Beacon Hill is State Representative Denise Provost.
Thank you for having me,
back.
Joe.
Welcome back.
A pleasure.
A four-time winner. Four-time winner. You were
Yes.
our very first guest. When we launched the show in 2009.
That's right.
You were the very first guest.
I remember that now. Well, I'm honored.
There you go.
Obviously, that was
There you go.
a good thing.
And, you know, somebody asked me the other day, how do you come up with the guests? And I basically say, I put the word out to the elected officials, because everybody always wants to hear from elected officials in the city of Somerville. And I put it out to business people, and I put it out to neighborhood activists, and I put it out to, you know, artists and people who have interest here in Somerville.
Sure.
And I got to tell you that whenever I have called you and asked you if you would like to appear on the show, you immediately say yes.
That's true.
And you've never canceled.
That's true.
In
too.
all four times, you've never canceled.
I try
so.
never to cancel.
There
And
you
I
go.
try to be punctual.
You are. And, you know, you juggle your home life and you juggle your day job with being at the State House day in, day out. So I want to thank you again for coming in tonight.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. But we have our flags tonight, in case you didn't notice.
No, I did notice.
There you go. There you go. July 4th weekend is fast approaching.
Amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it?
And you and I both live in the same ward in the
Yes.
city, Ward
Yes.
5. And Ward 5 is in the Magoon Square area is very proud to host, yet once again, the fireworks at Trump Field. My sources tell me it's Thursday, and I have to apologize to the people at home. I didn't do my homework like I usually do, but I believe it is Thursday night at Trump Field. As always, folks, enjoy the night. The city puts on a great firework display and entertainment for our seniors and for everyone who attends. But please, please, please be careful. It's a very congested area of the city. If you can walk to Trump Field, please do. If you can bike, please do. Be careful of the parking restrictions. Most of the Magoon Square area will be under severe parking restrictions so that fire lanes and fire hydrants and everything else are kept open because of the pyrotechnics. So please come to Magoon Square, patronize our businesses, and come to Trump Field this Thursday night for the annual fireworks display. Before I forget it, happy July 4th to everybody.
To everyone.
There you are. Big plans? Big plans for July 4th?
Traditional cookout.
There you go. Staying in the city?
Yeah,
Yeah. There
absolutely.
you go. Busy times up on Beacon Hill.
Very busy.
We see yet again, the budget is the bane of your existence up there, but
The budgets only get more tough, although this is getting to be a cliffhanger. This may be the first time that we will not have passed a budget by the end of the fiscal year.
which leads into the first question. That we hear on the news, on the bigger news stations, there's something about a stopgap budget.
Yes, we
Can
passed
you
that.
kind of explain that to the folks at home?
It's a 10-day budget, and we passed it on Monday in the informal session yesterday. And the governor signed it yesterday or today, and it is enough money to get us over the hump. I think the hope and the assumption is that the conference committee will come out with a budget. They might still this week, but it's cutting it close.
So when you say it's a 10-day budget, it's just holding everything in place for 10 days.
Yes.
Making sure that people get paid, making sure that,
Exactly, that
yeah.
services continue,
Right.
that the courts are able to run, and the state police and all of the other functions. of government.
Have we ever in the state of Massachusetts come down to the fact where we have to shut it down because we have no money?
I have never heard of a shutdown. I think that there have always been agreements made to pass sort of bridge budgets, you might call them, because the minority party doesn't want government to shut down. Like most of us on the Democratic side, most of the Republicans came from local government. They want local government to be able to operate,
Right.
and they want the state to be able to
Right.
operate. It doesn't make any sense.
And when you're making that reference, you're talking about the state reps and the state senators
Exactly.
who are up at Beacon Hill, usually come out of municipal government, as you did.
Yes.
You were alderman at large
Yeah.
here in the city. You're now in the State House. You have to answer to the constituents. I mean, if the state government shuts down because all of you, whether it's Republican or Democrat, can't come to an agreement over the budget, that's
Then shame on us.
shame on us. Shame on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think that will happen. I think that there are reasons why the conference committee is stuck that substantially have to do with, we've got a new chairman of Ways and Means in the House. The Senate has a new chairman of Ways and Means. And, just for people who might not know, when the budget is a bill, like any other bill.
Sure.
And when the House and the Senate pass versions that are not identical, the bill goes to a conference committee to negotiate an agreement.
Right. Here are the differences. Let's work it out and then come to an agreement.
Yes.
Yep.
And conference committees are typically 3 members from each side, 3 appointed by the Speaker, 3 by the Senate President. 1 in each team has to be a member of the minority party. So, which is one of the many ways that the minority party is actually influential beyond its numbers. And, that makes for checks and balances. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's a feature. And actually, when we were in the informal session yesterday, I went up to the Republican member who's on the conference committee, because he was the only member of the conference committee in the chamber, and I said, just for purposes of planning my week, can you tell me if we're likely to get the budget and come into formal session? And, nobody in Ways and Means will say much of anything about the budget.
Right.
He said, well, at this point, I'd say no. He said, but it could happen, which is...
It's politics.
Yeah.
It's politics, Denise. You've been in it long enough.
I understand, but it, it gave me the confidence to feel that I could come on this show, because I did not think we were likely to get a budget popping out of conference committee yesterday afternoon that would require me to be at the State House all day today.
But you know that I would have, had you called me at the last minute and said, Joe, we got called back into session, it would have been fine.
Yeah, but you would have been stuck on really short notice.
No, I would have, there are so many people in this city that have a great story to tell, not just elected officials.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
There are many, many people that, I've had to try to schedule around, how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? I try to give the elected officials, and I try to give people who head up organizations first shot at coming on and speaking directly to the people in the city that they represent, whether it's an elected official or an organization or whatever. But there are a lot of other people who have a story to tell in this city, and they want to come on the show. So I'm never at a loss for a guest, but, I do have to beg your indulgence. There was something I wanted to say at the beginning of the show, and of course I forgot. We have been doing repeats for the last couple of weeks, and for those folks who did call me at home and ask me or emailed me, yes, my mom is back at home after a 3-week stint in a rehab. Mom does not like rehab. So the decision was made that she is coming back home. She's probably watching the show tonight, and she's doing fine. So Mom is fine at 98 years old.
Feel better, Anna.
Feel better, Anna. She's doing fine at 98 years old, so we are back into the live shows again.
Okay.
But thank you, everybody who emailed me or called me. Cayenne, again, people have been missing Cayenne. Cayenne is traveling. As most of you know, she is now working.
Green Line meetings.
Yes, Cayenne is now gainfully employed with one of the consultant companies that is doing the Green Line for the cities of Cambridge, Somerville, Medford.
Yep.
And she is working for one of the engineering companies. So she's been doing a lot of Green Line meetings.
There have been a lot of Green Line meetings.
Yeah.
They, to their credit, they wanted them to get them completed in June when people were still in town.
Exactly.
Which
Yep.
I thought was admirable.
Yep.
It put them on a strenuous schedule.
It put me on a strenuous schedule
yes.
because I'm without a co-host, so that's fine. So speaking of the Green Line, we're talking about the budget. Is the budget going to be catastrophic this year, or is it going to be painful yet doable?
Well, the thing that makes the budget painful is the increase in the proportion of the budget that goes one way or another to healthcare costs.
Yep.
And it's about a third of the state budget, and that's what's squeezing out other things.
As it is here in the city of Somerville
As
as
it
well.
is everywhere,
Right.
as it is in the nation, as it is in other nations. And, you know, what the good part of that is, I think that the legislature is finally going to address some of the cost containment measures that there was no political appetite for back in 2006 when we passed the original health care bill. And even beyond political appetite, I think the bill itself was so complicated
Right.
and had so many moving parts that we all understood it would be a work in progress. And there has been progress. There have been bills passed since then to improve the quality of care, which not surprisingly reduces the cost. I had actually several bills that I filed taken up by the Senate president and put in a bill that she introduced and that was adopted. But obviously the time has come to go beyond nibbling around the edges and to take on some of the big systemic problems.
Right.
And one of them, as we know from some exposés that the Globe has done, there are hospitals which are, what should we say, unduly powerful, which get reimbursed at much higher rates than other hospitals without having better outcomes.
Because they have better lobbyists.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever. It's got to end. It's
Yep.
got to end.
Well, I would offer my services after the last month of dealing with my mom with, excuse me, not only hospitals but rehabilitation centers. I would offer my services if anybody wants to hear what I see as some of the exorbitant, catastrophic, wasteful way that the medical industry is using insurance dollars. Whether it's public insurance dollars or private insurance dollars.
I think all of us who are helping to take care of elderly parents
Right.
have those kinds of stories.
Yeah. Representative Provost, I will tell you, it is outrageous.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And all the rest of us get to pay for it.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. And you know what seems bizarre to me is that last fall in the elections, a smallish state nearby elected as a governor a man who had committed Medicaid fraud in a pharmacy that he owned, and then paid part of what he owed, and then declared bankruptcy. And yet, he was elected governor of his state. And then in Florida, they elected a man who was involved in Medicare fraud. or the company that he ran was. And it makes me wonder, what are the voters thinking?
Well, I mean, and I know, we've been in the city long enough. It doesn't, I don't shake my head at it anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, even locally, I see how we elect some of the people that we elect, and I used to shake my head. I don't anymore. And I think to myself, if that's what the voter wants, let the voter speak loudly. And the voter does. It only takes 51%.
I understand, but
Yeah.
it's my impression that more than 51% of voters are always hollering about fraud, waste, and abuse in government.
I agree with you. Yep.
So the fact that in 2 states on the East Coast, we've got elected governors who have engaged in large-scale fraud against government-funded, taxpayer-funded programs, healthcare programs, suggests that maybe people haven't been all that serious about.
No, and I guess you have to get to the point where you try to sell a Senate seat to actually get convicted of something, or.
Well, these days, I think selling official favors is more likely to result in a conviction, and that is a very good thing.
And we did have one here in Massachusetts.
We have had at least.
Yeah,
one.
and I don't think it's going to come
Yeah.
as any surprise to anybody who knows you, is that you had serious reservations in the past. You expressed them to me, and I think you've expressed them about former Speaker DeMacy.
Well.
And there you are. He's been convicted.
Yes, and the thing about reservations, though, is that that they're not the same as proof. I was really
That's right.
kind of annoyed at an editorial that the Globe ran that suggested that Governor Patrick and Leslie Kerwin, when she was the Secretary of Administration and Finance, hadn't been diligent enough about pursuing this contract. And I thought, what are they supposed to do? They're not law enforcement.
That's
I mean,
right.
if
That's
they went to Sal, one-on-one and
Former
said,
Speaker DeMacy.
Yes,
Sal DeMacy,
yes.
Yep.
and said, come on, Sal, we can see that you're interested in having this contract signed.
And
you don't
why?
have a financial
Right.
interest by any chance, do you?
Right.
I mean, first of all, what kind of a conversation is that
Right.
between, the most powerful people in government? That's like a parent to child. Where did you get that Snickers bar?
Right.
This is
Yeah.
unrealistic. And then what is Sal going to answer? He's going to say,
Well, of course he's going to deny it.
exactly,
Right.
as he did to the House members after the articles started appearing,
That's right.
also in the
That's
Globe.
right.
And people were going to Sal,
Yeah.
I can tell you. I was in the room. I was one of those people and said, what about this? What about that?
Yeah. Well, it only goes to show you, and I still have a lot of faith in the voters. I have a lot of faith in the
So do
vast
I.
majority of people that are out there, but, more and more it comes down to, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Fix my sidewalk, I'll give you a vote. And unfortunately, I understand it. I understand the nuts and bolts and the basics of politics, but I don't get an entire body where you were, the House of Representatives, kowtowing to Sal DeMacy all those years. And some folks who were close to him, I suspect, knew what was taking place with a lot of these contracts. And this is only one that they caught him on. As my father used to say, there's more.
Well,
There's more.
if certainly the federal prosecutors, took away tens of thousands of documents and emails and
Right.
everything else. And if there is evidence, I sure hope that they will pursue others.
And that's all we
who
can
knew
do, Denise,
what was
is hope.
going on or
Right.
colluded in what was going on.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be a wholesome thing.
Speaking of people who have been in the news lately, unfortunately for us who live in the Winter Hill district, Winter Hill is back in the news, and not for good reasons these days. I mean, I want to give a shout out to Winter Hill Reborn, which is one of the blogs out there that does nothing but good stuff about Winter Hill, and has never once, in all the time I've been following their blog, talked about the Winter Hill gang. Mm-hmm. So whoever you are who runs the Winter Hill blog, thank you very Winter Hill Reborn. Thank you very much. Here's your pop quiz for the night.
Okay.
And your constituents may want to know how you feel about it. Should the taxpayers pay for Whitey Bulger's defense in his upcoming trials?
Should we? Well, we kind of have to, because we have a constitution that guarantees every criminal defendant a right to counsel, and counsel being supplied at public expense if the individual is indigent. Now, the thing about Whitey Bulger is the $800,000 cash that he had in his apartment in Santa Monica.
823,000.
Okay.
I'm a former banker. I follow stuff.
Wasn't his. It wasn't his.
It wasn't his to begin with.
Yes.
And it's no longer his.
It's been seized by the
That's
government.
Right. That's right.
So unless the government can find assets which are his, and I hesitate to say legitimately, but he did ostensibly win a lottery at one point. Remember
Good point.
that?
He did.
So,
yeah.
you know, I would say enter into a contract with this man. You know, maybe we do have to front him the
public defenders.
The public defenders.
Yep.
But to the extent that we are able to locate any money which is actually his, or assets of any kind, liquidate them.
Well, I have my own thoughts on it, and here they are.
Okay, good.
Whatever money Whitey Bulger has belongs to the victims of his crime.
Yeah.
And I would advise whoever is within the public defender's office to find the 2 worst public defenders ever and give them to Whitey Bulger.
I don't
It's
think
mine,
that's what's
not
happening.
Representative Provost. It's mine. Find the 2 worst and give them to Whitey and let them defend him. So, anyway, that was your pop quiz for the night. Green Line, still coming, still chugging along.
Yeah, it's
a lot of work being done.
Yes,
Yeah.
the as you know, because I saw you at some of the station design meetings.
Yeah.
The team that is doing both the site planning,
Design work, neighborhood work.
exactly,
Yep.
the design of the stations has been refreshingly open and responsive. They really listen, is my sense, at these meetings, and that they had already made improvements in the sort of very rough schematics.
The overall scheme of,
that had been, you know, that had been filed back in the environmental approval stage, and they are taking the station design from 10% to 30%. But there will be more meetings in the fall. People who have missed this round of station design meetings haven't lost their chance. And I'm sure they would be very receptive to other input as well.
And I agree with you, and I think that what's great about this round of meetings is that we now actually have the people who are going to be working on the project. This is no longer conceptualizing. These are the consultants and the actual companies that are going to be working for the state to build these stations. And in addition, the MBTA is now involved.
The MBTA itself, although the actually once the stations get to the 30% design, they're going to be put out to bid. For a design build contract.
Right.
So there'll be a new party, and we don't know whom yet, coming in to take the design from 30% to 100%.
I could take a guess, but you're going to have to email me. So.
And then do the construction.
Right.
But you know, again, MassDOT, when the delegation met with MassDOT in December, January, most recently.
So we're still chugging along.
Yes,
still
yes.
chugging
One of
along.
the things that
Okay.
we suggested was some of the bridges that will need widening. We're saying,
Right.
couldn't we do those first? Because, we know what needs to be done. It's not actually part of the what is yet to be designed and built.
And I would assume that eases a lot of the traffic mitigation that goes on in the cities, in the Somerville, Medford, Cambridge.
They'll be able to stage it. They'll
Right.
be able to spread it out more, and they'll be able to do it in advance.
We are slowly coming to the close of another enjoyable 28 minutes, but
Already.
You'll come back. Come back sometime in the fall.
come
We'll
back.
talk about some redistricting, casino gambling. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, by fall, we'll have an idea of what the redistricting
Okay.
will entail.
Okay.
Because, the legislature will have to vote on it in November. It will have to have been in place.
If we wind up having primaries here in the city, come back after the primaries.
I'll do that.
Terrific. Good to see you again.
Good to see
Thank you
you.
so much for coming back. Once again, folks, happy July 4th weekend. And as always, my guest has been State Representative Denise Provost. Stay safe, stay informed. See you next week.
Enjoy the fireworks.